Thank you, Brother Lloyd. And happy once again to be here with everyone. I hope that the morning so far has been a blessing to everyone. And the things that we are hearing, I hope that we will take away with us. It's not easy to change our way of thinking, our way of behaving, but it's very important that we do benefit from these things. And the Syrophoenician work, as we were looking at it, we knew that there was a number of people who were Syrophoenician, Samaritan types, and so on. But as we actually started to enumerate the different people, it turned out that there's quite a bit of us brethren here who are Syrophoenician, Samaritan types, not coming straight from the Adventist church. And that's pretty interesting, really. That is interesting that there is, the Lord has seen fit to use those people, bringing them straight from the other churches to be part of this association. And as it has been happening all along, we should understand that it will continue to happen, and we should not be resistant. We should not be critical of the way the Lord has been working and will continue to work. And we're very happy that we have all of you who are Syrophoenicians. We're very happy that we have Sister Danita, happy to have Sister Kim, and all the rest of the people who are Syrophoenicians. So let us all be happy and move forward in this way, not be concerned at all with it. And remember what we have said and underlined over and over again. It doesn't matter how many people come in from the world. If we have not done our work for the church, we've not done our work, have we? But we can always use helpers, can't we? We can always use more help to get our work done for the church, and that's what the point is. I have two opening thoughts that we've already prayed, and we're going to continue with that. But I have two thoughts that I wanted to open with on prayer. Question: is it necessary to have a mental picture of the things for which we pray? Answer: if we have no such vision, we shall have nothing concrete and tangible to pray and work for. And naturally then, neither our prayers nor our efforts will accomplish anything. This is a very, very important Davidian concept. When we pray, we must have a clear mental picture, a clear understanding of what we're praying for. Everyone must have a clear vision of his needs, his aims. Lacking such, he goes about blindly and gets nowhere. Remember that where there is no vision, the people perish. Proverbs 29:18. So remember that when you pray, you want to have a clear vision of what you're praying for. Let it be clear in your mind, because you're not able to communicate with the Lord on your side. He can understand, but we have to communicate. We have to do our part. And if you don't know, you don't see it, you don't understand it, you need to. If at all possible, you need to if you're praying for someone, know who they are, know their name. These things are important. If you have some sort of need, be specific, be clear about it. Have that clear vision in your mind. It is your privilege to be one with Christ as he is one with the Father. If you are a member of such a union, you will not ask favors of him from a selfish motive, but you will be prompted by pure, holy desires, and your petitions will be such as God can grant. When we pray for others, people, especially people that are not our close friends and family, those are unselfish prayers. These are the prayers that the Lord wants us to offer. When we pray for selfish things, material things, those are the least likely things that He is going to grant us. And that often, material things are sometimes the bulk of our prayer. The Lord wants us to ask for spiritual gifts. Any good spiritual gift, He has promised that He will not withhold it if we ask. Have a clear vision of it, see it clearly what you want, ask of Him for it, and then you have to do your part. We have to do our part to answer these prayers. We have to receive the gift. We have to move forward in faith, putting the gift to use, whatever it is that we're asking for. If it's patience, then you have to act like you have faith and you did believe that you received that patience. And you move forward in that way, and then you will see, if you have faith, that the Lord really has answered your prayer. He has helped you in that way. But do not ask for favors from selfish motives. And this is so deeply ingrained that I've had brethren argue with me before about this subject. People say, well, I pray for parking spaces. If you have a physical disability, it's okay. It is something that you can ask the Lord if it is His will for. But if there's a limited number of parking spaces, do you know what the situation is? It's you or him, the other person. Okay, one or the other has to be disappointed. That's selfishness. You are asking for yourself at the cost of somebody else. And we do that without thinking about it, brethren. And I honestly have had people argue with me in the past on this subject. But we don't have the right as Davidians to be asking for selfish things. Don't do that. Now, I think if you will let the Lord open up the places for you to park in, this is just a simple example, but it goes for everything. And if you will be satisfied to take a farther position, as a usual thing, when you really need a close space because of some important reason, that could open up. The Lord can make it happen. So this is how we should look at everything too. The Lord will make those personal things that are necessary to us in some way. He will make those things happen if it is His will. Okay, our study today is on this current events that may fulfill prophecy. And to begin with, I want to talk about type progression. Type progression is a somewhat technical subject that the message teaches. It's not end all, be all, whatever end of the message, but it is something that the message touches on. Our message is a very comprehensive message. There's all sorts of things in the message. And if we have faith, and we should have faith that the Lord is leading us, there are many things in the message, many precious truths that it's very beneficial for us to learn as time goes on, but that we don't have to have at our fingertips instantly to be saved. There are things that are necessary to be saved, and then there are things that are not necessary depending on the time, and depending on how long we've been in the message, and so on. So if you are not familiar with type progression, do not feel bad. Type progression is the use of one type to progressively symbolize an organization over a long period of time. The Protestant nations, it's an organization, a thing, a body that persists through time. The Protestant nations are symbolized by Assyria over a period of time. Another type progression is the true church is symbolized by Leah over a period of time. Using one type to symbolize a group or organization that exists over a period of time is possible because a type can have numerous phases. So this is a teaching of the message, and it is pretty self-evident once you look at the subject. It's not actually saying anything really amazing in the sense that it's impossible to understand. It's quite sensible, actually. Okay, so an example of type progression is found in the Shepherd's Rod Tract 1, page 34. In this type progression of spiritual Israel, only one of the four, Leah, was Jacob's legal wife. Only she, therefore, can typify the true and legal church, the one which was organized in Jerusalem by the 12-tribe kingdom and which finally evolved into the Christian church. So you might say, to oversimplify it, Leah is the Christian church. But what the truth is that Leah, it represents the true and legal church through the ages. That's the thought that is really important. And Leah progressives. The symbolism of Leah progresses from Jerusalem to the Christian church down onto our time. In 1931, Brother Haniff applied Leah to the true church at that time, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And remember, Leah applies to the true church throughout the ages. Progressively. It evolves, as it were. It finally evolved into the Christian church, but it didn't stop. It kept going, became the Adventist church, and today we apply this principle to this principle that says Leah is the true and legal church. We apply this principle even today, right now. Who is the true and legal church today? Is it the General Conference, the denomination? Not exactly, brethren. As we talked about before, it is the true church down through the ages, which is those who will make up to 144,000, those who have not bowed the knee to Baal. So it is correct to apply the type of Leah to the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Association, the true and legal church today. Now, that we don't apply that as as a denomination. We don't apply it as a church building. We apply it in the spiritual sense, the true and legal spiritual church down through the ages. So this is a fairly well understood example of type progression, and there's others, and particularly we want to talk about Assyria. Assyria, as already mentioned, is a numerous phase type also. Just as Assyria is a numerous phase type, Assyria's opponents are also multi-phased. It's not the same opponent in all down through the ages. It shifts, it changes. Nations over time move from one fulfillment of prophecy to another. Assyria is a combination of nations. And so is Assyria's opponent, by the way. And that's the point we're going to come to. The leading type of Assyria, the leading example of the antitype of Assyria, I should say, in the Middle Ages were the German Protestant states. How can we say that? And this is track 1434. The type, ancient Assyria, finds its double in the power which in the Middle Ages broke up that church-state union. And as that union was dissolved by the present Protestant nations, the conclusion inescapably follows that modern Assyria reaches down to our day. But the primary or the leading example, the leading nation in the type of Assyria shifts. It shifts down through time in different ways. Just as the fulfillment of the type of Leah shifted from the Jerusalem church to the Christian church to the Seventh-day Adventist church to the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist church. You see? It's the same true, the true church of God down through the ages, but the application in each period of time shifts. It's a numerous phase, Brother Hadif says. The deadly wound on the leopard-like beast therefore represents the deadly blow which it received from the Protestant Reformation. And I saw one of his heads, which was wounded to death. The wounded head represents the papacy, wounded by Martin Luther. So Martin Luther was one of the leading spirits of the Reformation, and the German states took up that banner of Reformation and were in the forefront of the Protestant Reformation. Germany, who led out in the Reformation, but who turned back from it, has reaped a sorrowful harvest too. So once upon a time, Germany was part of those Protestant nations that were in the lead there in delivering the deadly wound to the head of the leopard-like beast, one of the heads. Germany was part of the Protestant nations that wounded the Catholic Church. One of the noblest testimonies ever uttered for the Reformation was the protest offered by the Christian princes of Germany at the Diet of Spires in 1529. The courage, faith, and firmness of these men of God gained for succeeding ages liberty of thought and conscience. Their protest gave to the Reformed Church the name Protestants. Its principles are the very essence of Protestantism. So Martin Luther and the German states that supported him were at the forefront of the Protestant Reformation. And therefore, they were a leading part of antitypical Assyria in the Middle Ages. The type of Assyria later shifted primarily to France and England. Now, many of the things that we're talking about presuppose familiarity with a lot of different Davidian prophecy. And that's understood. And we trust that most of you have had a chance to familiarize yourself with these things. It is not something we're going to do right now to take time to go into everything. It is not our point to talk about these things in detail, but they're very interesting. it's very beneficial to dig into these things yourself. Now, since it is a known fact that Great Britain and France were not prepared to fight Hitler when he opened up his guns against them, and as every one of the Allies began to prepare themselves mightily after Hitler started to dash in pieces, the truth stands out as clear as crystal that he who dashes in pieces is none other than Hitler, the one who was ready at the commencement of the war, the one who broke in several pieces Germany itself, the British Empire, and many other countries. And this is the key part in red. The Allies, therefore, must be anatypical Assyria. Who were the Allies to begin with in this war? Great Britain and France. But it shifted during the war. It shifted primarily to Britain, and as France was knocked out of the war, and then it shifted again. I'm going to read this whole passage, and I didn't have the references here at all, and someone can remind me of them. Anyone can see that the world is fast getting ready to resume the war with a mightier and final blow if possible. Anyone can see, too, that the war was not won for the good of Great Britain and her allies, but for Russia, and the following cessation of following the cessation of hostilities, conditions have caused the world to consolidate into two great and hostile blocks. The Western, at the outset, Great Britain and allies, now principally the United States, and this is an interjection added by Brother Bingham, and the Eastern, Russia and satellite blocks, not to mention the wars and rumors all around us. This happened because Great Britain and her allies allied with atheistic Russia, a government that is against God and His church. Thus, Great Britain and her allies put, and all these brackets, comments and brackets have been added, put greater trust in God's enemy than in himself, and that is why the war is yet to be fought. Now, what TG is that? Someone give me the last mile. Yes, but it's well, it's from the Last Mile Home, quoting the TG, but okay, very good. So the point here is that there have developed two blocks, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. Originally, Great Britain was the primary leader of the Western Bloc as France dropped out. But now, principally, the United States is the foremost part of the type of Assyria. And it can be a little bit confusing. Who is Assyria? If you look at it one way, Assyria was the Protestant nations in the Middle Ages that were responsible for the destruction of the church and state system at that time. The wounding, the great deadly wound to the Catholic Church, to the papacy. But if you look at it from another time frame, Assyria is France and England, the Allies, primarily. And as we look at it today, Assyria is primarily the United States and allies. And this is probably what you have learned, that Assyria is the United States. And that's true, but it is important to understand that this is a progressive type. It shifts, it's multi-phased. Okay, so Thanks. 2TG 41, page 16, quoted in The Last Mile Home, in this case. Okay, so just as the Western Bloc has shifted, the point today is the Eastern Bloc has shifted as well. The world to consolidate is to consolidate into two great and hostile blocs, the Western and Eastern blocs. Today we see China as the bastion of true communism. China is moving to become the leader of the Eastern Bloc. Now, one of the key aspects of the blocs, of the Eastern Bloc, is that it is an atheistic power. It is a godless, atheistic power hostile to Christianity. And I'm not going to go back to that, but this is the case with China. China is today hostile to Christianity, to religion in general. They have expressed their antagonism to Christianity in suppressing all the churches there in China. It has gone so far as to impact our work. Our work in China has come to a complete, almost a complete standstill. And the team that we had in China has come back from China. We have, there are some interests in China, but overall, they have made things very difficult for foreign workers and the Chinese believers. They have persecuted the churches. They have literally broken down churches, demolished the churches, oppressed the congregations, and so on. They are an atheistic power that is antagonistic to Christianity. And from a material point of view, from a point of view of military might, industrial might, China has moved into the lead in the East Bloc countries. Now, this wasn't clear when Brother Houteff wrote these things originally. I believe the date of this TG was 1948, and China was in the middle of a civil war at that time, and it wasn't clear that the communists were going to win. But they did win, and in 1949, they did win. They took control of the whole country, and so the things shift. The prophecy, the type is going to remain, but the application of that type can shift, just like it shifted with France. We don't really think of France as part of Assyria, do we? But it is. It's a Protestant nation, more or less these days. And even England is not the primary manifestation of Assyria today, of the type. It is the United States. Well, brethren, in the same way, we see it applying. We see this, the East Bloc type applying to China more and more as we move ahead. Now, let's go on to this one. Atheistic Russia, a government that is against God and His church. Russia was against God's church, and it still is. If you're not Russian Orthodox, they persecute you. But Russia is no longer the primary exemplar of communism, and it can return, and it will return at a certain time. But Russia is not the Russia it used to be. There's a long-standing, little humorous saying. During the Cold War, it was said that, by the Russians themselves, that they had the second best army. after the United States, after Syria. Well, now the humorous story is they still have the second best army in the Ukraine after the Ukrainians. Their standing in the world has been diminished, brethren. There were a lot of people who got very excited about the Ukrainian war, a lot of Davidians. It was not the time to be excited about that war. That is not the war that we look for, and in fact, it was moving in the other direction. As the Lord has prophesied certain things, the enemy tries to derail these things. The problem is that he's working against someone who knows the past and the future as well as the present and cannot be defeated. And so the Lord has ways of bringing prophecy about, fulfilling prophecy. And if the enemy were to succeed in downgrading Russia to the point where it could not be the primary leader of the Eastern Bloc, the Lord has something else. He has another country that he had his hand over, as it were, that we didn't notice. Obvious it is then that to punish any apostate and hypocritical nation, Christian nation, heaven may send upon it a red scourge of atheistic communism, though the scriptures make certain that it is doomed in the struggle for world supremacy. The red scourge today, brethren, is China, not Russia. Russia is a kind of a hybrid country, but it's heavily capitalistic. It's more capitalistic in some ways than we. We don't have private armies in this country. We all know that they went so far as to have a private army there in Russia. It didn't work out so well. Maybe they will learn that having private capitalistic armies is not the best thing, but they have done that. They have the great oligarchs who have incredible wealth own vast amounts of the companies that were once communist but now have been privatized. Anyone can own them, and the Russians do own they have stock market. They own the companies just like here in this country, capitalism. That's not to say that they will always stay capitalist, but we do know that China is a true communist country with some veneer of capitalism for convenience, but they are a atheistic communist country. And it is this kind of country that the Lord is going to use to punish Assyria. He's going to use an atheistic communist country to lead the Eastern Bloc. And while we may not have been paying close attention, we have been developing a situation with China. This is 5 years, this headline, 5 years into the trade war, China continues its slow decoupling from the U.S., from U.S. exports. We've had this thing going on for a while for various reasons. That China and the United States are slowly falling out, and what is now a trade war could become at any time a hot war, perhaps over Taiwan, perhaps over transit through those constricted waters, the Taiwan Strait, and so on. But these things are quite possible. Now, this kind of conflict with China is not directly the Syrian war, but it is the lead up to that. It will be directly leading up to that. China just played a trump card in the chip war. Are more export curbs coming? Now, this is the latest twist and turn in this trade war. We, in the past, have restricted, in very recent times, have restricted the kind of computer chips that China can buy. And you might say, why do we do that? Computer chips are becoming a strategic commodity on par with uranium, on par with the best fighter jets and so on and so on. Computer chips are the thing that is going to drive the future of AI, the development of artificial intelligence. And to a certain extent, the leaders in this country understand that allowing China to have gigantic supercomputers and the best in artificial intelligence would be harmful. So they've restricted those things, and China now has answered. And China answered with a ban on rare earth exports. Rare earths are things like germanium and anyone want to give me the other one that was banned? They are some minerals that are very important for making electronics, computer chips, and so on. They're used just heavily in all kinds of modern electronic devices, high-tech devices. In banning them, they have the greatest supply of rare earth materials in China, and they played a very big trump card there in banning that from the United States. Now, what usually happens in a trade war is when we say no high-tech computer chips for China. They're actually called GPUs, and they are used for making the most powerful supercomputers today. So we say, you can't have the very best GPUs, you can have the older ones. So what happens usually is you give that country an incentive to start producing their own. And they will, and they are. They will start producing their own. And so when they come back to us and say, no rare earths for you, what happens is we will start literally digging into the ground, developing our own rare earth supply to a higher degree. All these things are part of decoupling. Instead of being together, working together, helping each other, we're decoupling. And we're going to go our separate ways in preparation to having a real fallout. Okay, and that is where we're headed right now. Now, only the Lord knows how soon these things will come about. We're not saying that we will see these things all take place at any particular time, but we are saying that this is the way that the prophecy is going to be fulfilled, in the sense that China is the leader. Russia has fallen behind in the same way that England fell behind the United States. So the primary application shifts to another communist country. Prophecy points out that the world will next be ruled by an international religious system, by Babylon the Great, a rival of the religion of Christ and a counterfeit of the woman in Revelation chapter 12. We have therefore again seen that the final world government is to be neither communistic nor capitalistic, but ecclesiastical and more in favor of capitalism than communism. So are we to worry about China taking over the world? Not exactly. Okay? It is not going to be either communistic or capitalistic, but it's going to be an ecclesiastic government that forms. When will this happen? When Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp hands with spiritualism, when under the influence of this threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and that the end is near. Now, we are not so far from this, brethren. We see events shaping already in this direction. We see a move to have a constitutional convention. We see a loss of commitment to the Constitution in this country. As short a time ago as Brother Hada's time, the thought of having the Constitution superseded would seem like just fantasy, total fantasy. Today, you have people who actively want to see that happen. We are moving in that direction. And we are also moving in the direction of the Roman power clasping hands with both Protestantism and spiritualism. This is the Paul VI audience hall. I was always deeply impressed in a negative way with this, sculpture. It is what the Catholics consider a fitting and representative sculpture for them. And so they have it in this audience hall. It is behind his chair there, the Pope. And if you think that that's made up, when I first saw it, I thought it was just anti-Catholic propaganda because it's, the sculpture just hits me so wrong. And I thought, well, that's a trivial anti-Catholic propaganda, but it's not Catholic propaganda. It's a Catholic propaganda, as it were. Okay, and it's supposed to be Christ's resurrection out of an atomic bomb crater. Okay, but it's just to me, with the skulls and the symbolism and so on, it's just unhealthy. It's not Christ-like. It's not pure, wholesome, uplifting. It's just not what I associate with a proper church, you know. And if you saw that behind me, I know you would freak out, and rightly so. Okay, so anyway, but we do see this reaching out across the Gulf, and that's what's so interesting, to see these current events starting to shape up. Okay, don't look over to the Ukraine and the war there. That's the enemy diverting you to nothing. The events that are shaping up are the ones that are called for in prophecy. Pope has brought new life to Muslim-Catholic relations. He is reaching across to the other churches, all of them, by the way. Christianity, Islam share common commitment. Pope Francis draws criticism over Protestant concessions. He has reached out to the Protestants. He reached out to the Adventist Church, actually, among others, as you probably know. And that was for the General Conference to consider it of any significance, that to meet with the Pope and so on is an abomination. We are not rabid anti-Catholic prejudiced people. Okay, many good Christians in the Catholic communion, Sister White says. But we are not going to join hands with them either. We don't do that. Vatican asked bishops to invite local Protestant and Orthodox leaders to participate in synodal path. They have been very busy reaching out to the Protestants. Now we just have to find them reaching out to the spiritualists, and they have. The Pope, the Amazon, and Pachamama. Pachamama is some kind of heathen goddess in the Amazon. I've never paid real significant attention to it, but this particular thing is true. This is an article by Francis X. Clooney, a professor at Harvard Divinity School. Notice that he has S.J. by the side of his name. Okay, he's a Jesuit. He's a member of the Society of Jesuit, and he happens to be a critical Jesuit. Most of the Jesuits support the Pope, but he actually is one of the older type Catholics who don't support him. Now here's what the article was about. On October 4, Pope Francis attended an act of idolatrous worship of the pagan goddess Pachamama. He allowed this worship to take place in the Vatican gardens, thus desecrating the vicinity of the graves of the martyrs and of the Church of the Apostle Peter. He participated in this act of idolatrous worship by blessing a wooden image of Pachamama. And there's more, but the thing is he is reaching his hand over the abyss. And there will be more and more of this. This is early. This is the beginning. It is pretty unheard of for even Catholics to be so blatant in their behavior, but he has a plan. He has a reason. He wants to bring everyone together, okay? He's bringing everyone together under the umbrella of the Catholic Church, of the papacy. Have we heard about this before? We have heard about this, brethren. Yes, we have. So we see events starting to shape up. We do see these things. And as we see prophecy fulfilled, even though we know that there's going to be many difficulties, many problems, we also should be thankful to see these things beginning to happen. We are thankful for this. We are happy to see prophecy beginning to be fulfilled step by step. And we see a way that it is shaping up. Is it a certain way that it will shape up? In the codes that published during World War II, Brother Hadif says that we don't know who he that dashes in pieces is. Now, he said this early on, and then later it was determined that it applied to to Hitler. So light is progressive, understanding is progressive. Our understanding now is the events are beginning to shape up. There's one big catch here. If we are not the people God has called us to be, if we are not the people who are going to finish this work, then there could be a whole nother period of time inserted here. They thought during World War II that time was very short. And you can read the code and see the things that were said, and they were not wrong, but they didn't have a full understanding of everything. So what they didn't realize is that they were not the people God was going to use to finish the work. It is not God's fault. He wasn't fooling around. He wasn't lying. He was prepared to have them finish all the work at that time. Time was very short, Brother Hadif said. It was very short. And in the larger sense, he was right. But in the narrow sense that they were looking forward to the fulfillment of prophecy, that wasn't so. And that was because they were not the people that God needed to finish the work. Now you may think, well, that's a hard saying, Brother Trevor. Well, it's just the truth. Neither were the Adventists the people that God could use to finish the work. And we know that. And the brethren at Mount Carmel were not willing to fully commit themselves to the work. They were still too much in the world, too much with the old way of thinking. And so they were not able to move to the way that the Lord wanted them to move and be able to do the things that they had to do. They were simply not the people. That doesn't mean they're lost. It just means that they were not the people that were going to finish the work. And brethren, it could be the same with us. It is a matter of decision on our part. If we want to make that commitment, make that decision to go all out, to be willing to do these things that the Lord has asked us to do, or if we want to go on about our business as usual. In the early Christian church, they were on fire. They were willing to pay the price, the ultimate price. They were all committed, everyone. They were all doing their part. And if they weren't going out to distant countries as missionaries, they were in Jerusalem as a prayer band, as a great, powerful prayer band that was powering the work. So we all have a part. Every single one of us can have a part in this work. But is that what we are determined to do? So it's still not absolutely certain. I believe that we are the people. I believe that this is the time. We have been called to do this work. We can do it and go home and live happily ever after in the kingdom and in heaven and the new earth. Or we can dilly-dally, we can commit ourselves to all sorts of other things. This is important, Brother Trevor. My family, my job, my house, my education. And we can go on in all these other ways and not actually be the people God has called us to be. But I believe that enough of us will commit, will be willing to go all out in however the Lord calls us. And don't forget that there are different ways that the Lord calls us. Those people who in Jerusalem who were supporting the work through their prayers and their acts of faith and love, those people were a key part of the work. So there's many different ways of doing this. To finish up here, I want to read from 2TG 17:12. The world government, which is to develop from the League of Nations and the United Nations, and notice how we progress from the League of Nations to the United Nations, and we're talking about something, a third government still in the future, the world government. That is to develop from the League of Nations and the United Nations is not actually to be absolutely universal. And there are still to be two worlds, but rather than there being capitalism and communism, they are to be those who worship the beast and his image and those who worship God and have their names written in the book. The latter are the only people who will not bow down to the future world government. Now, if we, for those who do not worship God, they will be the ones who are bowing down to the beast. There will be those who apostatize and who are, because they cannot make that commitment, they cannot pay that price, they just cannot separate themselves from their idols. There will be those who are worshiping the beast. And there will be those who worship God and have their names written in the book. Brethren, it is at all costs, we need to be those people who have our names written in the book. It is by far the best possible thing that could happen to us. And it's well worth whatever price we have to pay. Make sure that you have your name written in the book. We know these things have been shown to us for various reasons, but one of them, and one of the most important things, is that we will be motivated, that we will have a desire to be this people. So brethren, I hope that each one of us will make this determination, whatever we're doing, wherever we are, whatever it is. Nothing is more important than being this people who have their name written in the book. Thank you, brethren.